When you think about Mindhunter, your mind probably goes straight to the killers, right? The intense interviews, Holden and Tench, the whole birth of criminal profiling. But today, we're going to look past the interrogation room and focus on a character who is, I think, one of the most misunderstood and honestly, one of the most important people in the whole series.
So let's just start with the kind of provocative question here. For a lot of people watching the show, Holden Ford's girlfriend, Debbie Mitford, comes across as, well, difficult, maybe even distracting from the main plot. But what if that's not just wrong, but completely misses the entire point of her character?
And look, I get it. That reaction makes sense. She doesn't really fit into that neat little box of the supportive partner who just cheers from the sidelines. But today, we're going to argue that seeing her that way is way too simple, and that her real purpose in this story is actually hiding in plain sight.
All right, so to really get to the heart of what Debbie's all about, we have to stop looking at her as just Holden's girlfriend. We need to see her for what she really is, a powerful, powerful symbol of disruption. And that disruption is essential to everything that happens in the show.
Think about this. It is absolutely no accident that the writers made Debbie a sociology student. Her entire field of study is the key to understanding her function in this story. I mean, at its core, what is sociology? It's all about challenging norms, questioning the way things are, and always asking why. And that's exactly what Debbie does.
And you see this in everything she does, right? This isn't just about her being difficult. Her behavior is a constant, consistent application of that sociological method. She pokes holes in conversations, she questions every assumption, and she absolutely refuses to accept easy answers. She's constantly pushing Holden intellectually. So if Debbie is this force of disruption, we have to ask, what is she disrupting? And for that, we need to turn to Holden Ford himself and his incredibly rigid worldview. A worldview that makes someone like her not just interesting, but absolutely necessary for him.
I mean, there's no doubt Holden is brilliant. The guy's a gifted investigator. But his biggest weakness? His mind is so rigid. He has almost zero emotional intelligence. He misses all these social cues because for him, every single conversation is just an interview, a mission to get facts. The man is stuck inside a box.
And this chart just lays it out perfectly. This is the core of their whole dynamic. You've got Holden on one side, obsessed with the what, the facts, the evidence, doing everything by the book. And then you have Debbie, who is all about the why, the theory, the norms, the intellectual rebellion. It's no wonder he's drawn to her. She's everything his structured mind is not.
And here is where it all clicks. Their relationship, their personal conflicts, it's all a direct mirror of the professional breakthrough Holden is trying to make happen at the FBI. You could almost say their arguments are his training sessions.
To really get what a huge shift this was, you have to look at the FBI back then. Their focus was almost entirely on procedure and physical evidence. The whole psychological side of things, the why, was this tiny little slice of the pie. And that was fine for solving bank robberies, but for this new kind of killer with no obvious motive, they were completely lost.
And you can literally trace his professional breakthrough step by step right back to his relationship with her. First, Debbie challenges his personal worldview. That teaches him to question assumptions in general. Then, he starts to apply that to his work, doubting the FBI's old methods. That doubt pushes him to look for deeper psychological patterns. And boom, that's the birth of criminal profiling. It all starts with her.
Now, this whole idea of personal disruption leading to professional innovation, it's not just some clever plot device the writers came up with. It actually mirrors the real-world history of how criminal profiling came to be. And this is where it gets really, really cool.
See, to understand these new killers, you needed a totally new way of thinking. It wasn't about finding a fingerprint anymore. It was about getting inside a mind. It took empathy, pattern recognition, psychological interpretation, all skills that sound a lot more like Debbie's sociology class than the old FBI rulebook. And this is all grounded in history. Holden's character is based on the real profiler John Douglas, and he, along with other pioneers like Robert Ressler and Dr. Ann Burgess, had to fight tooth and nail against the FBI's old guard to create the behavioral science unit. They had to be intellectual rebels, just like Debbie.
So let's circle back to that first question. If she's so important, why do so many viewers find her so, well, uncomfortable? The answer is pretty simple, really. That discomfort you feel, it's completely intentional.
Her purpose in this story isn't to make Holden feel good about himself. Her purpose is to challenge him. She forces him, and by extension she forces us in the audience, to face that really uncomfortable gap between his professional genius and his pretty glaring emotional immaturity. She is there to expose his blind spots.
So what's the big takeaway here? Debbie really embodies these essential and often kind of irritating forces that you need for any real breakthrough. She's the intellectual rebel, the outside perspective. She's the one asking the uncomfortable questions that are the catalyst for all the change that follows.
Let's put it this way. Without her constantly challenging his rigid worldview, Holden Ford probably would have stayed a very smart, by-the-book FBI agent. A good one, for sure. But he never, ever would have become the transformative figure who completely changed criminal investigation. He needed her disruptive energy.
In the end, what Mindhunter really shows us is that to understand the darkest corners of human nature, you first have to have the courage to question everything you think you know. It's a powerful lesson. And it leaves us with one final thought. Progress so often comes from the people and the ideas that make us the most uncomfortable. So the question is, who or what is your Debbie?